Hello, this quick video just to give you an overview of the prototype RC spec wing, some of the design features and talk about what's included in the kit. So to start with the wing itself, one of the things with the wing is I crash quite hard. I wanted to make sure they were pretty robust, so they come with 7 meters of 3x1 carbon spar. So they have spars running across the leading edge, the trailing edge, and on the bottom there's also a spar running diagonally, and then there's cross spars top and bottom that run under those spars, so it's super rigid. There's also a spar kind of top and bottom offset under the motor mount. And then in terms of something that's, if you've raced spec wings, you've probably experienced once or twice, where you crash at 90 miles an hour and your camera mount carries on down the field. So you can see here the camera mounts actually have recesses top and bottom, so the spars actually slot all the way into the camera mounts. It's a bit muddy, this one is. And exactly the same for the motor mount. So they won't rip out in a crash. I say they won't. I've not had one rip out yet, but it's everything's obviously possible. The thought with the camera mount is that the casing of the camera is TPU, so it provides some cushioning in a crash. And then the centre section is actually printed out of a very stiff carbon filament, so even if the outside flexes, the inner will protect your camera. This is a universal camera mount that I've now done. You can see there's slots on the side, so you can adjust the camera so it should fit any size camera. It's also vented if I've found the odd camera gets quite hot, so the air will flow through there and just back into the battery bay. That simply pushes into the mount once you've glued the mount to the wing, and there's screw holes on the bottom that screw straight into the actual camera mount itself to hold it in place and stop that flying forward. And then there's also little kind of recesses on here, you can see. So once it's in, and you obviously can't get back to the back to push it out, you can put a flathead screwdriver under the lip and just lever that out if you need to. Again, with the rear, I've seen a lot of motor mounts just come off, break in crashes. So the first part's actually TPU, this purple section, which does allow the motor, I can't really demonstrate it on the camera, some flex. So in a crash, there's a little bit of give on the motor, stopping you from breaking the mount. The mount itself is a high temperature carbon filament, so it won't melt. You'll also see that it's kind of a perfect fit for a T-Motor AT2310 spec motor, with just maximum cooling for that motor. The wires for the motor actually come through the side, and to use this mount you actually need to snip. There's a sort of little section here because the wire comes out sideways to bend it down, which is easy to do with some, actually I've got some pretty rubbish old wire cutters that I did it with. If you want one where you don't have to cut the motor base, I can also provide those. So it's pretty tough from that perspective. The kit itself, the motor mount itself, I've adapted so it's slightly thicker. So this one is recessed into the foam that's obviously making the foam quite thin there. It actually comes slightly thicker, so it goes over the foam. There is an option if you want a recessed one, potentially it's not quite as strong. So by standard you'll get one that goes over the top. I've not included this ESC cover because it's obviously for a specific size ESC, so I figure most people will want to cut some foam out and mount the ESC or mount it on top for maximum airflow. The wing comes pre-cut. The wing's double cut, so if I show you a wing, hard to do with one hand, I take this out. Can I get this with one hand? So the wing comes pre-cut with the nose and the motor mount battery bay, and the elevon surface cut out. The elevons are deliberately half length because this is where you're getting maximum control, both on the roll axis because it's further from the centre, and the pitch axis. And having the elevon extended in further, if you imagine this is moving faster because it's a greater radius, you're just causing extra drag here, which is going to cause more wobble and slow your plane down. So a combination of that and the motor mount hopefully will make this as efficient as possible. So the battery bays are again printed out of carbon filaments, so just to give the wing as much stiffness as possible. They are, I don't know if you're seeing this, but they are moulded, shaped to perfectly match the aerofoil of the wing as well. They're obviously flat on the inside for the battery. So there's two options. You can either go with option one, which is this one, which is the one that I tend to use, and that's designed for quad battery. So it'll fit, as an example, this is a GMB 1500, which it fits perfectly, and this is flush with the top of the wing, which is great. So races last, well, 2 minutes plus 30 seconds, 2.5 minutes. So this will not do 100% full throttle for 2.5 minutes solid. Although the last race we did, the end of last year at Feckenham, I did fly on these the whole time because the course was so tight. I wasn't 100% throttled the entire race. Alternatively, I run R-Line 1800s, hard to put in here with one hand, which stick up slightly from the top, but they will do 2.5 minutes full throttle and have a bit of juice left in them. If you want to be more traditional, there's option 2 battery style, which obviously means that the bay is cut differently in the wing, so please do specify when ordering. And that takes a 3S LiPo, sort of a standard 2200 LiPo. In terms of what comes in the kit, so in the kit you get obviously the double cut wing, made out of nice tough EPP. You get 7 meters of carbon fibre strip. You get the whichever battery bay you've opted for, laser cut elevons, laser cut wing tips, the camera and nose mount, the tail mount and motor mount. The tail mount has brass inserts pre-inserted into it when they're sent out, and all the hardware, motor screws for the nose, as well as the heavy duty control horns, control rods, clevises, and everything come with the wing. In addition to that, well, there's also, a choice of colours. So in terms of the TPU parts, the current colour range is, there's 2 shades of orange, purple, grey, red, blue or black. And then in addition to that, there's a couple of extra options. Unfortunately, I just couldn't afford to fit everything in at the kit price, which is if you want a laminating covering kit, as I'm sure most people have got their own, you can get a little laminating kit. So I send out 75 micron laminate, which is what most people use for wings all over. I only use it on the top, and then I use 125 micron, which is much thicker, on the bottom, just to really protect it, because spec wings take a real beating. I also include some elevon gap tape. So on your elevons, this goes over, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, there's tape here that cover that gap to reduce the drag, and it also helps stop wag from the wing in the air. In addition to that, if you fancy, you can see it on this one, rather than just have the servos mounted straight into the foam, which they are on this one. I had an issue where I snapped a control horn off. I decided to make some servo mounts. So these are extremely lightweight. This is what one of them looks like. You can see it's sort of, you basically would cut the foam out to sink that in. It fits an Emax ES08 2MD, although I guess the analog one would also be the same size. That just slots in, and then it comes with 4 screws that actually clamp it clamp it in, which also means if you want to access your servo or remove it, it's just 4 screws, the servo slides out, which is great for maintenance. The other options that we have are a wingtip kit, which are not on there, but they're on this one. So adds a bit of colour to your wingtip, but it's sort of protects the corner of your wingtip. It also comes with this carbon fibre plate, a couple of countersunk screws, and some nylon standoffs which basically sink into the end of the wing. So if you do damage one of the wingtips in the middle of a race, it's just 2 screws. Take it out, 2 screws, and it's back on again. So it's nice and quick to change the wingtips rather than have them glued on. There's also a range of options. The kits ship with a bit of extra Corex to use as electronics covers. I do have a range of electronic covers, so these are specifically for HD0. So this fits a HD0 Race V2 VTX. The mounting hole, there's actually inserts in the base that these screw into. There's sort of metal inserts in the base. These screw into that, and it's the mounting pan of the VTX, and then there's an electronics bay in there. So in this one, it's actually got a flight controller that's just wired up to the VTX. So I've got some kind of OSD and can see what my battery voltage is. This one has some very basic covers on. One with a hole for a heatsink for a VTX, just not on VTX. This is just like a U shape that plugs into the phone, but if you have a look at the manual or the order form, you'll see all the various parts on there. If you'd like to see a bit more about the wing, if you're not already a member, if you join my Facebook group, Prototype RC, the Wing Lab, and go to the file section, you'll see there is a build manual. There's also an order form. The build manual for the Spec-K is a different wing. That's a smaller 440mm wingspan, kind of mini version of a Spec. So if you look at the Spec manual, you'll see there is, you can download this, have a look through. Even if you don't get one of my wings, it might have some useful tips in for you. It's pretty extensive. It's a 34-page manual. So it's got key things at the front. If you're familiar with building wings, it's got sort of where I'd suggest you'd put the spars, the CG, etc. Fairly early on, and then it goes through sort of step by step all the steps of how I'd build the wing, and depending on which battery bay you've got, where I'd suggest you place the electronics bays to hit CG, and a whole variety of different sort of tips and kind of build steps in there, depending on how much help and support you'd like with the wing build. But if you're interested in one of these wings, they come completely free with a nice branded Prototype RC box. To drop me a DM and I'll get one out to you. I've got quite a few in stock. It just depends on if sort of colours and things like that you want as to whether they're available. I should have said also the Prototype RC sticker is available in different colours, and I can also now do, I've done a cutting template, so if you want coloured vinyl for your elevons and wingtips pre-cut, so you can just stick it on and don't have to cut it, I can also offer that now as well. Thanks for watching.